incredible.
What is the biggest thing that we have control over? What are the most important things?
Sure. Well, if there was one thing that I could say, if there's one thing you could do, it would be eat less. Mm-hmm. That's the main thing. And I know you've had plenty of people.
Right. We've had Walter Longo, who's, discussed this at length with his intermittent fasting and his fasting mimicking diet and all of that. And I know this is something that you practice and are on board with as well. So what is going on with either calorie restriction or the way that we time our intake of food that has implications on aging or its reversal?
Yeah, so calorie restriction is the most robust way to prevent cancer, heart disease, or pretty much all diseases. It's been known since 1916, and then a very classic study in the 1930s by McKay and colleagues. So we all agree that calorie restriction or intermittent fasting these days works. The question is how. And what we've found is that some of the pathways that we study in the aging field, sirtuins are a major part, mTOR is the other, which Walter has talked about on this show. These are pathways that respond particularly to how much we're eating. Mm-hmm. And if we eat a lot of food, they stop defending our body or telling proteins to defend us. And if we eat less, what happens is they get kicked into action, and they do a whole range of things that protect us from disease and even can reverse aspects of aging. And so just to focus for a little bit on the sirtuins, because we're on that theme, when you are hungry, your NAD levels go up. And so now your sirtuins are quite active and repairing the body, and they can make sure that the body doesn't lose its epigenomic stability. In other words, keep those scratches from accumulating over time. And the longer you do fasting over your lifetime, the slower those scratches will accumulate. And so exercise as well raises NAD levels. And your listeners might be wondering, why would exercise and diet turn on these pathways in the first place? Well, what we think is going on is that in early life, in the primordial ponds, so picture early Earth. Earth's covered in an ocean. There's these islands and there's little pools, and we think that's where life formed. This is the cutting edge science right now. In those pools are little strands of RNA that have come together from chemicals from meteorites. First cells are forming. Those first cells need to be able to control those genes on and off. So when do you want genes on and off? Well, responding to stress. So if there's a cosmic ray coming and hitting and smashing that genome of that little organism, it needs to have a system to defend itself, to hunker down, survive, and then repopulate that pond when all the other organisms have otherwise died off. So this is extremely ancient genes that we have inherited from those forebears of ours. But now we can kick those survival genes into action by putting our bodies under a bit of stress, hormesis, or eating plants with those molecules that signal stress. We call that xenohormesis, xeno meaning between species. And that is right now, with the exception of some clinical trial proof, that exercise and dieting is really the best thing we can do for our bodies.
Wow. Is there, when it comes to fasting, is there any indication? Like, I'm trying to get a sense of, can you do it too much? Are people who are doing these 30-day water fasts, are they getting any additional benefit beyond somebody who's doing Walter's fasting mimicking diet, which actually involves eating, meals throughout the day? Or do we still have a lot to learn here?
Well, yeah, we always have a lot to learn, but we know a heck of a lot more than we did a few years ago. What we've found in mice as a field is that, and just a study that came out about a month ago from Rafael de Cabo's lab at NIH, found that it's not so much what you eat, but when you eat that's so important for those animals, and probably for us as well. That doesn't mean that we can just eat whatever we want and go hungry. I think it's a combination of the two things, and that's what I do with my own body as best I can. But primarily, you need to be hungry a little bit, preferably every day, but at least a couple of days a week, I think.
That hunger creates that stress response that gets the sirtuins doing what you want them to do.
It does. The Body Shop repair people actually get your NAD levels up. And you can do that with being a little bit hungry. You can also do that by restricting the total amount of protein that you bring on board. So eating a lot of steak would be about the worst thing you could do. Never exposing your body to any changes in temperature is probably another thing. But basically, everything that makes your body happy and sedentary and unstressed is bad for you. And the reason is that you're not engaging your survival circuits.